mine, Strikeons.
Well, I don't think they're going to be the center of attention for our second LPL versus LCK showdown of the day.
And the beautiful thing about this matchup is you highlighted it. Weibo is unpredictable.
Sure.
They're a team that you genuinely don't know the level that they're going to deliver on the day. They've beaten some of the best teams in the LPL. They've lost to some of the worst. Like they are a team that
they're the wild card, you know.
And I think many didn't expect them to qualify, but here we are. We find ourselves in a position where, and again, like a lot of it, I think a lot of the credit needs to go to Tarzan. I loved watching his early pathing, the impact that he has. I would say that Weibo is typically a bot-focused team, a team that likes to play around the bot side of the map.
Are they? Oh, we are deep in the mind games. So for anyone, of course, lane swap, great. But it looks like Gen G proactively trying to gain control of the top side because they want this 2v2. They are so much stronger in the 2v2. The second they see Crisp has Aftershock, they know they just body that level 1. So trying to put priority on figuring out where the Jinx is going to go, where Light is going to lane, with Pays still near mid.
They've seen the Jax, so they think that the Jax is on the top side of the map, but look at where the Jinx is going. Goes back to base.
He's waiting to see who shows.
He's trying to avoid any potential wards.
Lane swap haters are like, oh god, this is the worst version of League of Legends. But the analysts are like, ooh, it's so smart. Vision, Breathe walking in, just to try to be disruptive.
I mean, this is also a very classic top lane move, right?
Yeah.
To interrupt, get in the way. Crisp now making his way over will be the numbers difference that Genji is not expecting.
Canyon.
The E? No.
No. Manages to get away. Crisp might have had the angle if he stepped forward with a bit more confidence, but wasn't 100% certain.
But Weibo successfully get the lane swap that they were after. Breathe is taking a lot of damage, but now he makes his way over towards top lane. It's the same thing that we've seen multiple times where the support will go mid to try and get XP, you get the level 2, you then path towards bot, and you're ready for the potential dive on the stacked wave. Breathe will be able to TP to bot lane with the level 2, and you hope that you can then outplay the potential dive that is going to come through from Genji. Meanwhile, the split map is occurring. Tarzan makes his way towards the top side of Genji's jungle, and here we go.
And this is one of the big strengths of Ivern, of course, very easy for him to steal away camps, but also just clears, all things considered, much faster than most junglers, so usually has 20 to 30 extra seconds to go for early ganks, go for early plays, whereas, yeah, Canyon can get involved, but will fall pretty far behind if he tries to match, as Tarzan is on vision, but it's really just taking his time setting up all these camps.
Now keep your eyes on Chris. He's now making his way towards the bot side of the map. There's only the 2 members so far. Jungler not in a position. Remember that Canyon's clear did get interrupted. He started on the top side of the map, so he's a little slow, so Crisp is able to arrive. A lot of this farm being lost still, but as long as Breathe can get the XP, level 3 is going to tick over. And there it is. So now the dive becomes a lot harder. Canyon going to start off the Gromp. Let's see if they still commit to the dive.
Maybe just want to be able to crash that wave in. Keen's still pretty powerful despite Light's range advantage.
I mean, crucially, while all of this is happening, Keen is just catching the waves top. He's only in a 1 versus 1. There's no threat of a dive on his side of the map.
And remember, if you're not familiar with lane swaps, the kind of logic here, even as they've made the towers tankier, it's not about trading even. It's about getting Jinx out of what would have been a miserable, miserable 2v2. And at this point, it just becomes a game about XP and about saving what would have felt like inevitable losses if you had lane 2v2 against this Kalista Renata. Yes, it sucks to give up 3 plates, but this duo is so powerful that you probably would have lost a comparable amount of money trying to play that 2v2.
But I think that Weibo want to try and swap this back as quickly as they can now because the damage to that tower is significant. And Genji are not going to slow down with the push. Canyon secures the blue buff. And you can see the Jinx now recalling. Of course, no TPs available.
Pink's mid lane.
Keen doing a good job of just getting farm and experience on the top side of the map. He really is the one that benefited the most from this exchange. Looks like they're going to keep the swap. They're actually going to keep sending the Jinx top. It comes back to that point you made in the previous game round. Perhaps the priority is around the grubs. If nothing else, you're getting solo experience onto Light. Maybe they believe that even in this situation, they couldn't win out on the 2 versus 2, and the threat of a dive is very real. So instead, they're going to have Light catch this wave in top. But now, keep your eyes on Pays and Lahens. They've decided, you know what, we're not letting this happen anymore. We're moving up towards the top side. If you want to go for the grubs, you're going to have to fight us first. And with the boots completed, Pays is poised to go for a fight.
Boots 2 for Kalista at this point in the game is very nice to have. It can be much more powerful. It does come down to a skirmish. And Pays fighting for a bit of that vision control is on a ward, of course. Gen.G really want to establish control on the top side of the map, match what Weibo are bringing. LCK, of course, compared to the LPL, pretty consistently Grubs focus. LPL maybe willing to trade more around Drake or early plates. Very often LCK teams straight to Grubs at 6 minutes. We're seeing that a little bit here. Spades and Lands happy to be laning and will eventually be a 2v2 as Crips shows his presence on the top side. The only gold lead remaining for Weibo is Tarzan in the jungle. Not the biggest deal on the Ivern, but of course the faster he gets to level 6, the more impact he can have.
Now, Weibo find themselves in a 2v2 that is difficult to play. This is the thing that they've been doing their best to avoid. The gold advantage that FaZe sits on is because of the plates that were secured early. Xiaohu finding advantages in the mid lane 1 versus 1, but nothing so significant that Chovy's really in a position to be worried about. Grubs now spawning, and Gen.G in a position to secure that first objective of the game.
Excellent position to be in. Wave in a neutral state, forcing Light and Chris to push out if they want to come down. But Gen.G so quick to take these early objectives, and I think the introduction of Grubs just a big buff to Kalista because she's so good at securing and taking those neutral objectives. Now FaZe, though, really wants that farm, is not certain if this fight is going to take off or not. Canyon smiting the last one away, trying to get the hell out. Get away from Xiao, who is the culling is there, shields are there. Chovy ready to body block, but they force Canyon's flash at the very least. They get the Super Mega Death Rocket out from Light as well.
Good flash from Canyon, respecting the damage that was coming out from Xiaohu, and honestly, I'd forgotten about the Jinx, but clearly he hadn't. He recognized that, all right, I need to get out of here, but he secures the objective that he was after. 3 Grubs locked down, and Gen.G still able to leverage the strength of this bot lane 2 versus 2. The farm discrepancy, nothing too significant. Light is able to secure that level 6, as we already know. And so at the very least, Weibo relying on the scaling element that they have going into the late game. Ivern plus Jinx, a terrifying combo the longer this game goes on.
Tarzan walking up. Crisp, can he find the angle? Good handshake to stun the duo, denying the play. Tarzan will at least clear out the vision, but good discipline from Gen.G.
Helping them get that base off. Light looking to reset, either spend some gold, maybe even swap back so they can be in a position to contest the Drake. Perhaps Weibo is happy to forego any of these early Drakes simply due to the strength of this Kalista. But Gen.G see an opportunity for more plates.
And frankly, in the mid lane, you've got a Smolder who's chilling, right? Chovy weathering the storm nicely. Early plated steel caps to mitigate any of Xiaohu's kill pressure. Part of the chaos of this map state means it's pretty hard for junglers to solely play around mid or try to support any early advantage the Lucian could have. That said, I don't know when the mid lane Smolder starts doing damage on this patch. Right now, he pokes and he stacks, at the very least.
I mean, look at it this way. You'll know.
I might not be able to tell you in advance, but I can tell you when I see it on my screen. If that's not the play-by-play life, I don't know what is.
Chovy flaps out to safety, and Weibo now ready to commit a bit more resources around mid lane, trying to help Xiaohu get the push so they can look towards this Drake. But Gen.G have already reset their bottom lane, all ready to fight back at least a little bit. Nice engage now coming in. Crisp in trouble. Aftershock fading away. That Poppy is dead. Well played by Gen.G.
Crisp isolated in the river. Gen.G just moving their bot lane smartly around the map to help secure these objectives. This Kalista continues to get stronger as First Blood is secured for Gen.G.
Gen.G overall controlling all these objectives. You know the Kalista Renata is going to be stronger earlier on, but you still had to navigate the map state well to be able to leverage the advantage.
I just like the way in which they save this bot lane pick for last, because it's their bridge into the late game, right? You know you have the Smolder, and maybe the early game of Rumble was impacted, and you expect these lane swaps, so he's going to be put a little bit behind. You have this bot lane which you can play through in the early game, and they're playing through it incredibly well. They were able to secure 3 plates bot, they swapped to top, they secured the Grubs, they swapped them back to bot, find a kill, get the Dragon, and it's just Canyon working in tandem with his bot lane to dominate this early game, resulting in a 1k gold lead for Gen.G so far, which when you also have this Smolder sitting in mid lane farming away, you're in a pretty happy spot.
Certainly are. And we'll have to see if Xiaohu can get a bit more involved in some of these map plays once he has an item completion under his belt. We know the Lucian on one item can be very powerful. Paired with Tarzan, who's there to buff him up, could get a lot of work done. But for now, Gen.G playing at a very comfortable game pace that has continued to favor them. The gold, yes, within touching distance, but you talked about it, the late game scaling insurance, the fact that Canyon's been able to pick up this early lock, it means that the coming fights should be quite easy for Gen G to navigate.
Also, my only concern for Gen G is, I would say their engage isn't the most reliable, but I guess you can make the same argument for Weibo, but like, who really starts the fights on both
you both pray the other side's going to start the fight, so you can Maokai, Renata ult their face, or Poppy ult them out.
Yeah, you kind of, I'm deciding if it's better for you to be the first on the... Probably it's better for you to be on the first on the objective so they walk into you.
Kalista ult is literally the best engage tool in the game, which is a very weird thing to say, but yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that statement.
I think it is. It's the most reliable piece, is Crisp. Whips his ult. See? Kalista ult, more reliable. Daisy called out. 4 grubs already picked up. Lehens ulting over the wall. That's going to be big. Paired beautifully with the Rebel, but 2 quick flashes out from Weibo means they're going to still be standing. Crisp, isolated, but now the TP coming in from behind with Breathe. The Jax could be big here. Canyon caught out for a brief moment, but they're instantly turning back onto Breathe. Breathe ulting to get a little bit of extra tankiness, but Light still untouched for now. Chovy coming in. Mom called. First kill picked up. Rocket going a little bit wide as Chovy tries to flap out to safety. How much left on the Counter-Strike? Breathe, can he continue to chase? The answer is no, but 2 for 2, the overall kill score.
So we see in this exchange why it is better for you to be the first on the objective. How much harder it is to approach, especially into things like the Renata ultimate and the Maokai ultimate. But ultimately, those tools were used very early to secure the grubs. But once the grubs were secured, Weibo found a really nice angle for the re-engage with a good TP flank coming in from Breathe. So you'll notice at the start of this fight, tools were used to mainly try and get a pick onto Crisp, but also to zone these members away from the grubs. So there's the Renata ultimate, there's the Maokai ultimate, and in combination with the Rumble ultimate too, it's forcing them back. But that's 3 ultimates now gone, and now the re-engage comes in. Xiaohu on the right side, Breathe on the left side, and this is where Gen G is forced to scatter and disengage. A nice ulti from Chovy is able to, at the very least, secure 1 kill, but the fact that they were able to get away still with 3 and all of the grubs, a great situation for Gen G.
Yeah, 6 grubs, not normally allowed in competitive League of Legends. We see in LCK and LPL, right? Teams will fight to get 4 and then are often very willing to concede the last 2 because it's so unlikely and can be very high risk to stick around for too long. But here, Gen G really set up to just start pushing out these lanes. Chovy, again, very comfortably scaling 109 stacks, 12 minutes into the game, 125 the next big break point.
It's a good pace for stacks, for sure.
And I think that we need to kind of see more from Weibo in these fights because giving away 6 grubs, very frustrating because Kalista normally not the best champion in the game at taking towers, not always in a position to match Jinx, but when you have 6 grubs, it feels a lot closer.
Play to the Ruin King being completed for Pays puts this Kalista in a very scary spot already. Gen G taking their time. They find themselves at a slight gold deficit, but it's nothing really to be too worried about as they continue to ramp up. We think about next objectives they can play for. They've moved their bottom lane into the mid lane to either potentially start securing some of these plates that are available in the mid lane, but also just so that it's easier to move from mid into these sides, maintain control over that prio. You can already see them doing it. Push in mid, move in towards the bot river, and now you can start threatening towards that top tower, deep vision, all sorts of options.
And Chovy conceding farm in the bottom lane to try to be first to the objective here. Both the Herald and the Drake will be spawning at the exact same time, but Gen G again shifting their focus to the top side of the map. Now Chovy returns, just trying to keep his options open, waiting for that wave to be pushed in by Xiaohu. Xiaohu sticking around, wanting to keep Chovy in lane at least a little bit. Does have the TP advantage, crucially, so can come to the objective as Weibo now move into the river, start to take control around the pit here, 12 seconds before the objective response.
Weibo have a first to enter, I should say, the top river, get a bit of deep vision. Light's going to have access onto this mid wave, push this one out. This Pays abandoning the wave as he looks for a pick.
Where's the engage going to go? I take it back, it's not that reliable.
Well, it was a questionable statement, especially when Aurora exists. Flash from Lens.
Very well positioned to make it over the traps with the knockback still coming through as Tarzan not quite able to find the root, but Xiaohu starting the objective here. Chu doing no damage. Doesn't really hit there as Chovy just continues to stack, and Gen G will be able to at least threaten this tower. You can see in the meantime, Canyon happy to just start up this objective. They already got 1 Drake, willing to concede the Herald, it would seem. But interestingly, you can see the gold in our lane economy snapshot. It's not a massive difference between either side, but gold slightly favoring the side of Weibo overall.
I told you, when we hyped up this jungle matchup, it was always going to be a battle of the minds. And so much high-level play.
So much thinking.
There's so much thinking.
So little fighting.
Now,
Good use of the Herald here, though. I like this.
Brush setup is good as well. Should just be able to break this one down.
And they TP bot.
Are they
to
going to
catch
go
that
for more?
wave.
Or is Light just using this as an escape
I
taxi?
think he's just going out.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's chilling.
He knows it's not going to crash. They'll just instantly one-shot it, so instead drives it away and will now use it to at least push slightly more favorably.
Now, Xiaohu has moved off to a side lane himself and is putting some pressure down onto Keen on the top side. With all the vision invested on this top side of the river as well, Keen has to be careful about who is where on the map, which is why he's showcasing that respect, going back to base, TPing bots to match up into the Jax, knowing that he should have a slightly easier time. Doesn't quite yet have the Leandries. The Trinity Force completed on to Breathe. Benefiting from some of the early gold advantages he was able to get. Of course, he is sitting on a kill as well. So he's in a comfortable spot right now. But overall, a very close game with Weibo sitting on the gold lead. By and large, because of the advantages they've been able to find on the top side of the map. And crucially, Light. I mean, he's just passively been farming very well. Even though Genji sort of controlled the early game very well, ultimately, Weibo haven't fallen prey to any really bad fights. In fact, they've been able to find that good fight around the Herald themselves. So we talked about the scaling of the Smolder, something that is always going to be terrifying to deal with. But the strangest thing about this game is going to be about how they start fights. Because setting up around objectives is going to be crucial. Being first on the objective means that the enemy's going to be forced to walk into you, and that means you're either walking into a Poppy, who can knock you away, you're walking into the range of a Jax flank, or you're walking into a Maokai ultimate, a Renata ultimate. Like, obviously the advantage of a Maokai ultimate is it can be used to zone you off of an objective, which is always a scary situation to find yourself in. But when both sides have more disengage tools than they have actually hard engage tools, like a Leona or a Rel, for example. Yeah, you're going to end up in this passive game where both teams are kind of hesitant to pull the trigger to start the fight.
In an awkward situation, you can see there Observer's wonderfully highlighting Breathe, debating if he wanted to leverage that canyon, or enemy cannon minion, not canyon minion. That one's in the jungle. Set up the wave as Rumble still hasn't been able to get back. Complete that Leandries, but it's a good point, right? So objective setup going to be big throughout the entirety of this game, because if you can force the enemy team to come to you, you'll be fighting in a much more favorable position. Xiaohu continuing to be that threat on the side lane. 2 items almost completed here. As 6 grubs does mean that Keen is going to be able to grab that bot lane tower at a much faster pace, get reset first. But Xiaohu, instead of trying to delete the tower immediately, just trying to deny as much CS as possible from Chovy.
An interesting game state is just cross maps continue to come through. Both these teams just kind of waiting for those spikes, waiting for those major objectives to respawn. About a minute and a half until this Infernal Dragon. Respect being shown from both sides. We're getting closer and closer to some of those big spikes. First items across the board already been completed for a while. But now the contest over the mid-wave begins.
Light and Crisp doing what they can. Obviously, as long as Tarzan's there, it's pretty easy for Light to walk up. Doesn't really matter if he takes 100, 200 damage. The Ivern shielding will be more than enough to protect him. Hasn't completed that second item. Would love to do so before the next major objective. You highlighted it. Minute on the Baron, minute on the Drake. Both teams pushing out to side. And I'm going to be honest, Vedius, when we started this game, I thought we were going to have time to talk about, oh, Chovy versus Xiaohu. It just ended up being about who played the map better. All the accolades, all the history, yeah, it's still exciting, but I think generally this game has been so much about the team across the board. Crisp caught out once or twice, a bit tragic for Weibo, but overall Weibo, despite difficulties early on with those objectives, still holding onto that gold lead, still in a pretty positive position. You can see the win probability very, very close.
I mean, yeah, it is very close. Like, the gold difference, I think, doesn't do justice really to the state of the game. Small item advantage for Breeze, but Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. This could be crucial. Genji have gained purchase to the river through the bot lane. The top wave continues to be pushed in. This is something Weibo's just done very well this game, just keeping control of these side lanes. The Jax continues to mount pressure in the top side of the map. Smolder is actually going to go and answer that.
And Genji in a bit of an awkward position here. Kalista only has 1.5 items. Light technically ahead. Yes, he has gone for 2 components, the Zeal and the Last Whisper, but feeling pretty confident in that item advantage.
There we go.
TP going in. Chovy is here. But in the meantime, Breathe is going to start pushing. Does have a TP of his own. Will show up on the bottom side of the map, waiting in the brush. Genji do spot him. Are they going to collapse? Or are they going to go for the 50-50? Knockback coming in. Chris channeling that ultimate. Will get the jungler out of the pit. Now they can just burst it and go for it. It's not even going to be a 50-50. Rumble ult is solid. Mom called in, but it might not matter. Dragon taken. Weibo need to get out, though. Xiaohu low. Healing coming in for the redemption. Genji, do they still want this fight? Breathe into the back line. Pays. Now going to be in trouble. Knockback coming in. Lehens now trying to send out the hostile takeover, but it's only going to connect onto the Jax. Breathe likely to fall here, but the rest of Weibo now ready to follow up. Pays getting one. No kill going over. Means no reset for the Jinx quite yet. They're desperate to get something else for Light. Crisp knocked down into the wall. Canyon going back through. Healing up off the passive is clutch as Light, no mana, but still wants to keep hitting. Handshake not going to connect. Xiaohu finishing the first kill. Reset coming in. Genji backing away, but the Drake going to Weibo.
The health bars are blinking across both sides. The level of patience showcased from those Genji players stuck in the pit to hold on to their flashes until the very last moment was crazy. Ultimately, though, it's Weibo that do secure themselves the Dragon. They deny Soul Point away from Genji, and it's just a 1-for-1. But notice how the gold lead just continues to mount in favor of Weibo. This fight starts with a good Poppy ultimate onto Canyon, getting him out of the fight. The combination of the Maokai ultimate and the Rumble ultimate looks promising to start with, but this difference between the range, look at how Light chips away at Chovy's HP bar, the Redemption doing work for Tarzan and Xiaohu on the backside, and then Breathe working well by going in for the 1v3, but then the Renata ultimate zoning the rest of Weibo away from the exchange. But now, there's just no more HP for Genji to really look for another fight, so they're forced to play defensively, they're forced to retreat. And then unfortunately for Lehens, he didn't quite expect the damage to come out from Xiaohu, resulting in a 1-for-1.
And it's important to understand that, like, Genji have to play that fight that well, or it gets much, much worse. Light only gets the first reset, only gets the first passive proc when they're already over the wall. If that had happened sooner, that Jinx would have torn through the entire team. And it's high stakes in these fights. Whoever gets that first kill, very likely to take the entire fight. And you can see that with the Maokai being so tanky, with the supportive itemization of Tarzan, it's not as simple as get a couple good ults and the fight is over.
But just the thing to notice is the farm at the bottom of your screen. Because for a lot of this early game, it was either Genji or even or ahead in a lot of these departments because of how well they were dominating the early game. But notice how Breathe is consistently finding. He's on a side lane again. Like,
All
he
I'm
hasn't
saying
stopped.
Xiaohu's kind of Chovying Chovy.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's my point. That Xiaohu is the other man on the side lane alongside Breathe, who just keep this pressure up. Meanwhile, Light is soaking up every single wave in mid. He's also being donated farm from his jungler. Like, the carries across the board are just farming incredibly well. And while Genji are trying to find plays, they're looking for picks, like Weibo are just passively picking up a lot of gold by maximizing the amount of farm that they're able to get on the map. So they now find themselves with a 3k gold lead without finding any significant team fight. They've just been playing well on the sides. They've secured all of the outer towers now, and they're in a great position. And we talked about how Weibo is a team that just surprises. Genji is a team that went the full 5 games in their finals. They are MSI champions. They are touted as one of the teams to win this whole tournament. And here's Weibo with a 3k goal lead. They are the epitome of unpredictable because they have stable players. They have great playmakers, and they're a team that are very often difficult to judge. And I feel like so far in this game, they're proving why. They have a nice lead, they're in a good position, they now just need to be able to close it out, which is a tough thing to do against Genji.
Certainly is. Genji, a very tenacious team. Rumble all going down. Hoping to just get a little bit of poke. Maybe hoping to zone them off the tower as well, but Weibo unafraid. Xiaohu off on the side, starting to Cole. Only connecting on a Canyon, though. Maybe not ideal. It does give room for Chris to move in mid lane, but the Poppy not that tanky. You have to be careful, and keep in mind, Chovy has hit that stack threshold. The execute is online. Rocket for a bit of poke.
Nice.
Barrier there from Pays. 228 for Chovy on stacks. It's going to start to hurt in these fights. It's really going to be Smolder versus Jinx in terms of the overall scaling. Breathe looking for the flank. Genji just 5-man grouping.
But
Side lanes.
Weibo's chilling, but you can see how awkward it is for both teams because of how little engage they have. They're just chipping away. They're waiting for someone to overstep, make a mistake.
Do it, you won't. No, you do it. I mean, they're just trying to bait each other into a fight, and the side lanes are relatively even, right? Bot lane is essentially dead even. Breathe finally going to go down to catch that one. Top lane not really pushing super hard, so neither side losing out on a lot of CS or gold to just hang out in the mid lane and posture. But a very awkward, you're right, because these are teams who normally you're like, oh, perfect, precise engages, but they don't have the tools.
Nope, they don't. And honestly, this benefits split pushers more than anyone else, because if you can't get engaged on in mid lane, then it doesn't matter if you're 5 versus 4, because this Jinx is going to look at you and be like, okay, cool, my Jax is taking your bot tier 2, by the way.
Lord Dominic's finished by Light. See what he finishes for the Zeal item here
now,
as well.
What they could do is they could have Jax just solo, the Dragon, by the way, while keeping pressure in mid, because Genji are trying to contest this mid wave as the culling comes out from Xiaohu. Good damage.
Still have some tools as Chovy forced to ult. Canyon, do they want to start the fight here? Breathe still waiting.
Looks like Breathe deciding not to. He's hesitant about the potential engage, but
It's such a good game, but it's such a goofy game, Betty.
Because you're right, they cannot engage on each other. The calling looks great, but it's just both sides trying to see fish for an angle.
You're literally waiting for an overstep, for a flash W from Canyon, for a root to land from Tarzan, for someone to overstep where they shouldn't be. Chris maybe finds a flash E into a wall, or someone starts an engage.
I mean, Genji just getting pushed out. They don't really have control of their mid lane.
Yep,
the mid wave is respawning. They'll get pushed first. Weibo in a very commanding position. Recalls are now being forced out. Luckily, Genji have decent vision around the objective, but Crisp kind of shepherding them like a border collie up towards the top side of the map. His hand's getting lower and lower. Rocket hit stops the recall. Weibo in such a good position. Redemption forcing a flash. They're being herded. Weibo.
The TP's going to come out from the smolder as well.
And now they can just walk away.
I mean, they get the push in mids. The wave does get caught by Key, and they now have clean access towards the Dragon. While all of this has been happening, I do think they could have just kept Breathe there, but I guess the fact that he doesn't have the TP was the biggest thing that they were concerned about in the event that a fight did kick off. Either way, though, now, I do wonder if Weibo are overstepping here. Looks like they will be fine, yeah, okay. I was worried because with Breathe going to the top lane and Genji actually having an opportunity to reset after all that pressure, there was a world where Genji could then look for an engage. But I say that this is their window, so now they're setting up for the Baron.
And they're going for this now, knowing that someone really should probably try to pick up that farm on the bottom wave. It will cost Weibo to be here, to be present in this play. Poppyall going to be big. Canyon, nice W. Twisted advance, keeping him in the play. They just need to finish the objective. They just need to get the Baron down, and they will do so. Breathe now in no man's land. Ulti now used by the Callista. Breathe locked up for a brief moment, trying to find the sun, trying to find the angle, flashing out to safety. Calling from Xiaohu, doing a whole hell of a lot of damage as Tarzan tries to chase. But Chovy, crucially untouched, flashing from Chris, trying to finish the job. The bailout there, but the bailout is not enough. Breathe still going. Xiaohu flashing in with full confidence, but Chovy is alive, looking for the resets. Tarzan now trying to get the hell out. Chovy looking to finish one more kill. Canyon gonna get the job done. Weibo with the man advantage, 4-3 overall. The fight calming down. Genji just want to get the hell out with their Baron buffs. Maybe grab mid lane tower on the way.
Genji recognized the amount of time that Weibo spent on the map, and they see a window to go for the Baron. They're able to secure it, but it costs them 2 members. The TP now coming back in.
Fight not done yet. Breathe chasing.
No, this fight is done. I do not think that Weibo can continue to chase this. I think that was an overzealous TP play for sure. At the very least, they're back out onto the map a little bit quicker. But the reason why I was concerned about the start of this Dragon was because they spent so much time on the map. That gave a great window for Genji to go for the Baron. They rush it down, use the Maokai ultimate to zone them away, but then they turn their attention to Breathe, and they think this could be an easy pick. He buys a lot of time, and Genji becomes split up. That allows for Weibo to capitalize on the split up members. They target the bot lane, and they're able to find 2 kills. The downside for Weibo is that Tarzan does lose his life in the river, but ultimately it's a Baron secured for Genji. Now, here's the biggest problem with what has just happened. Neither team has engaged. The team that has the Baron kind of lost the fight. And
so what you're saying is we go again.
Yeah, we just kind of go again. I like what Genji's doing, though. They've abandoned bot side of the map. They're committing members top, leveraging the stacked wave that they do have, and they're going to siege onto this tower. Good use of the Baron. They're immediately now moving into the top side jungle. And they're kind of shifting that trajectory. They're no longer just sitting in mid, constantly trading back and forth. They're trying to get more elsewhere on the map.
And while Weibo did get some kills, 1,500 gold from the Baron. Tower's now starting to fall. Keep in mind, about 2 or 3 waves of CS were also deleted in bot lane in the midst of that entire Baron play. So the gold is basically equalized only about a 2K difference between the teams, but item completions overall, essentially dead even. Yes, Xiaohu has a little bit of a lead, but that means the fights are going to be pretty damn close.
We find ourselves once again in a tense affair. Weibo and Gen.G going toe-to-toe. Reminder, this is a best of one. Round one of the Swiss stage. A lot on the line here.
You want to beat 1-0. You want to find that advantage, get out as quick as you can. Remember, 3 and you're in, lose 3 and you're out. Wow. Is a great ulti kicking things off. Tarzan caught, beautiful layering of the CC. And now Gen.G set up on this next tower. Knockback from Chris, not really going to connect. Does force the ult out from Pays at the very least, but this Red Bull Baron power play only growing more and more in the favor of Gen.G.
I mean, Gen.G figured out the formula. Just stack enough ults and you'll force an engage eventually. Really nice use of the Rumble ultimate with the Maokai ult.
Breathe on the sideline, going to knock down this tier 2, but TP now coming in from Xiaohu as well. Wants to TP
is this
behind them.
Flanking Lucian?
Yes, sir, it is.
He's spotted out on a ward. They know he is there.
This is incredibly awkward.
Here comes Breathe as well.
Breathe here too. Gen.G actually have to be careful though. Their TP's coming in, but it's going to be a little bit late. If Weibo get first draw on the fight, they might be able to get something done, but now it's Keen behanding behind them. Light going to be the one in trouble. Hostile takeover coming in. Just barely going to clip them. Shutdown is big. Keep in mind that Smolder's been stacking this entire time. 400 for Chovy. Breathe trying to get in the mix. Wants to finish off that dragon, but he doesn't have the damage. Double kill from Chovy. Weibo sent packing.
And now the momentum has completely shifted. Gen.G punished the re-engage from Weibo. Disconnected in their approach with a TP flanking Lucian. Things begin to fall apart. As Gen.G, Chovy.
Xiaohu, nice backstep. Chovy trying to finish, can't get too low. One dash, one auto, but there's Pays!
He gets the shutdown onto Xiaohu, and Gen.G now showcasing their dominance. 3-0-4 for Chovy, 4-0-3 for Pays.
And credit to Gen.G again, disciplined in these fights. They've been so good across the entire game, dropping vision, saving vision to put in those iron brushes so they can play on even footing. Not getting freaked out by this TP Lucian or getting caught up in the moment. That discipline paying dividends. As you can see, Weibo feeling under this pressure to force these plays, and as we highlighted, if you're the one forced to engage, forced to make the play, you're pretty disadvantaged in the context of this game when there's so many great disengage tools, so many threats that can blow you up.
Yeah, I mean, I think when they did that mid-tower siege, we really got to see the formula of how this comp wants to work, and it's basically just R, 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 R.
Yeah. Not the normal, like, Malphite, you know, Jarvan, whatever, but it's a little bit more range to it, but still works very well.
You throw the Maokai ultimate, and then the Rumble ultimate slows you down as well, making it harder to get away from the Maokai ultimate, and then on top of that, Chovy's ultimate is going to fly on top. There's a lot of fire, and a lot of destruction raining from the sky.
Ivern can't shield everybody. You know, redemption takes a little bit of time. And Chovy's, again, only continuing to stack, only getting scarier and scarier.
And
Ulti comes in from Canyon. If anyone tries to walk up, things are going to get dicey fast.
There's that combination. This time they didn't commit Keen's ulti. They'll be happy with the objective, though.
Crisp eating about 400 damage just to try to walk up there. But Gen.G went from feeling a bit out of sorts. That Baron got them time, and then that mid lane push, ultimately what really heavily shifted this game in their favor.
Well, yeah, getting the Baron, like, just gave them all the tools they needed to really begin their siege, right? Because empowering those minions really hurt Weibo's ability to stall out and wave clear. They secured the top tower, they secured the mid one, and now when they're sieging on these towers, especially with these Baron-empowered minions, their ultimates just become that much more powerful. So with the Baron back on the table once more, we see both teams setting up for the objective.
They also have no magic damage at all. So Canyon's having a great time.
True.
We normally see Maokai's with at least 3 or 4 deaths in the context of the game, but he's just been able to build full armor this entire game, and he doesn't need to worry about any of the tiny bits of magic damage from Tarzan or from Xiaohu's passive whatsoever. So a lot of the things in this game, these little edges favoring Gen.G, whether it's the scaling of the Smolder, whether it's the range on these ultimates, or the full AD kind of composition that Weibo have brought together.
Yeah, I just noticed the Randuin's on Pays as well.
That's high-value Randuin's right there.
Yeah.
That's basically just an additional 25% damage reduction for everything, because basically everyone is critting at this point.
This Baron becomes the big point of contention. Breathe doing what he can to push in the side lane. Void Staff now secured for Keen, but the little magic resist that does sit on the side of Weibo, looking to get shredded. FaZe, though, struggling to contest that mid wave. The culling once again.
Decent chunk. Mid-pry on the favor of Weibo for a brief moment. They're now trying to use it to collapse onto Lehens. Lehens flashing out. Tarzan flashing in. Hostile takeover is there, but Breeze still onto the back line. Going to be forced to use the ulti out from FaZe. Buys a bit more time. Reset is there. Hostile takeover didn't do much, but now Breathe in the midst of the entire team is still about to get shredded. But finally, Lehens will drop light on the backside. The resets are starting to come in. Chris still standing for an extra moment here. The knockback is there, but down goes the tank. Xiaohu finding the kill. FaZe, Chovy, Keen still standing. Looking to push Weibo back. A 2 for 2 thus far. The slow on to Xiaohu from the Maokai is crucial. Even from the Grave Canyon, having that impact, and the fight just stops there. Nobody really has the tools to follow up.
A very close affair. If Weibo was able to find more out of that collapse, they could have converted it into a Baron, but Gen.G responds in kind. They're starting the Baron without a smite of their own. They do, of course, have the Kalista.
They have the Rend. TP behind. Gen.G betting maybe not everything, but a whole hell of a lot on this play. Xiaohu now in the midst, trying to get a bit more damage down. Flash in from FaZe. Keen going gold, and Xiaohu needs to get the hell away. FaZe just running him down in the 1v1. But now it's Chovy and FaZe, the 2v2. And we just keep going. 7 seconds on Breathe, but he doesn't have the TP. Canyon up in 5. Don't think anyone else is starting the Baron, but I'll...
Oh my goodness, the
Cancel.
it gets interrupted, which is huge, with the Dragon spawning in about a minute and a half, buying time for the rest of your team to get settled back out onto the map. Allow for Xiaohu to respawn. Just buys a little bit more time. 36 minutes in. It's an interesting affair when both teams just keep going back and forth. FaZe nothing but confidence as he dived in for that 1v1 against Xiaohu.
Too.
True.
I was wondering why he took so little damage from Xiaohu, but it's just such a high value item in the context of this game. And
I am both the hunter and the tank. Come at me, Xiaohu.
The nightmare of anyone playing against Kalista is when she has the time and money to build a defensive item.
QSS as well there for Chovy.
But we go again, Dracos. The contest around the mid lane once more. Chovy's catching the bot wave. Breathe once more. Pushes out the top.
Chovy in the bottom lane. Not great flanking TPs. We'll just TP to group with the team. Weibo now coming in for a brief moment here. They have a man advantage while Keen is forced to catch that wave. Crisp trying to capitalize on it. Extra movement speed coming in. Chovy standing behind Lehens as he's once again vulnerable, but FaZe is there to try to save him. Angle coming in for the knockback. Poppy gonna find one. Chovy out of the fight immediately. Weibo turned back at the objective. They want to try and force down this Baron.
A bold move, but it's melting with double AD carries.
Canyon, can he get into the pit? Ulti coming in. 5K getting lower and lower. This Maokai wants to try and steal it away, but no. Tarzan finds the angle. However, Crisp already going down. Breathe off on the flank, hoping to find an angle into this fight. All of Weibo retreating. Gen.G might not have gotten the objective, but it looks like they're taking control thus far. Breathe instantly into the back line. Jax finding the knockup on a 2. The stun, excuse me, as we continue the fight, but off the side, it's Chovy finally getting evolved. Again, the execute's coming in. He's just sneezing on him, but it's not enough to get the job done. Light still standing. FaZe still standing. It's a hot mess. Weibo down a man, but up a Baron.
He's trying to get an execute onto someone recalling, but he's not going to be able to find anything. But the problem for Weibo is, yes, they're able to get the Baron, but they lose 3 members, and the Soul is available. Gen.G are going to make a beeline towards that objective, get the Infernal Soul for themselves. And wow, what a back and forth. The craziest thing about that last team fight, Daisy got a 3-man knockout. Like, it was I really hope we get to see a replay of that one, because it was a chaotic team fight. Chovy with an ambitious flash to shut down Light, and he almost got the execute, but he died just before he was able to get enough damage.
And surely a full build Smolder with 425 stacks and Infernal Soul is enough to end a game. But this fight,
so great Rumble ultimate onto the backline, but it doesn't actually end up doing as much damage as I thought it did. Crisp ends up getting melted immediately. The Jinx positioning is great. Lens doesn't die initially. It's this flank from Breathe in. But look at that 3-man knockup coming out from Daisy. Provides good utility as Chovy finds a kill in the Baron pit. And then watch this flash in from Chovy. Tries to get the last bit of damage. Not quite enough as Breathe comes over to help. And then it ends up being a 3 for 2. This Jinx is full build now.
Yep.
I mean, nearly everyone is full build.
Nearly everyone. We're approaching that time of the game. Breathe now. With the arm guard. We're taking a look across the board. Ulti cooldowns are available. A lot of flashes missing. Light no flash will be big in the fights to come. A similar story for Chovy. Feels like it might just be one final fight. Perhaps an Elder. Baron buff really not going to be used for much of anything other than some side lane pressure from Breathe.
It's crazy to me. in a meta where we expected the return of mages, right? This is what happens in this AD carry meta, where there's just not that much utility.
Yeah.
Like, few stuns, like what, there's a root, there's a slow, there's a stun, like there's... Overall, both sides are just kind of dancing. That's why positioning is so crucial. If you overstep, you're going to get one shot. But now things become much harder for Weibo, just due to the presence of this Infernal Soul on the side of Gen G. You thought Smolder hurt before, well, now he just hurts a lot more. And so navigating these fights is going to be that much harder.
I mean, there's so many abilities in this game that have the potential to just end this game rapidly, right? There's no cleanse on light right now. Hostile takeover hitting either of the AD carries here likely means they instantly kill their team. Yes, Tarzan does have access to the Mikhails, but it's going to have to be quick with it. And on the opposite side, Papillon, right? If Crisp can knock a carry out of the fight again, Weibo can very easily start to clean up, but you know, those are both slow, very telegraphed abilities. And it's just, again, I feel like we're a broken record here, but we have to say, like, this is a really hard game to play out because you have to be completely confident if you're going to pull the trigger on an engage, or you will be the reason your team loses the game.
Because the thing is, like, if Canyon flash W's in, you've got to bear in mind that there's not exactly a lot of follow-up CC that can come from that, right? So he may just find himself deep. Speaking of the CC, there's the ultis stacked on top of each other.
Yahoo going back, immediate Mikhail's getting used. Gen G breaking down to tier 2. Decent position. If they can force another fight where the Mikhails isn't available, that much more of an advantage.
I like how they're playing around these objectives, the way in which they utilize the Maokai ultimate in conjunction with the ultimates available in the party composition.
And while Maokai was nerfed, and the duration on these saplings is reduced, or at least the scaling in terms of how much duration they get off his max HP, this free vision control is still just so massive for Gen G. Means the setup around the next objective is that much easier. We are 2 minutes away. It feels like it's probably going to come down short of some sort of side lane pick. Yeah, Elder or a Baron fight. One more 5v5.
Game 3. Yeah.
5 more games after this.
I mean, we've got Fnatic versus D plus Kia after this one, which, you know, you thought that engaging was a problem in this game. I'll tell you, engaging going to be a problem in that game.
No matter what comp they pick.
It don't matter. But let's round things out here. 42 minutes in. And both teams pretty much full build. The gold doesn't really matter.
GA random wins for pays is great.
Try and kill me now.
I mean, he really, like, it's... Even in the face of Armor Pen, you still take so
Wait, hang on. Joey sold his QSS, and he bought a Randuin's as well. Yeah, okay, well...
Right, it's like, if you guys had figured this out 3 patches ago, we wouldn't have had to take 80s out of mid lane entirely.
Okay, so it's Gen G once again with control of a mid wave. Unsurprisingly, Breathe finds himself in a side lane pushing. The Jacks trying to get some work done. If they can continue to stall, which they're doing a good job of so far, maybe he can even put some pressure onto that tier 2, but Keen is going to go and answer.
Sums are all up. We're ready for a full 5v5, full strength from both sides. Weibo. See Rumble respond, feel confident they can step forward as a 4-man core. 20 seconds on the Baron. A minute on Elder. Elder the great equalizer. No matter what lead you think you have, team gets Elder. Pretty much just instantly start winning fights.
So tense. I mean, it is tense. Like, this game, while it is just a best of 1, determines a lot. It's going to impact the whole tournament. Whether you go 1-0, 0-1, your future opponents will be determined by that. Going 1-0 here gives you a little bit more breathing room.
Certainly.
Going 0-1 already starts to put the pressure on you. But also, with expectations so high on the side of Gen G, coming in as one of the tournament favorites, to lose here to Weibo already is going to shift a lot of perspectives.
Gen G, top of the table, I believe in terms of the overall power rankings. Weibo around 11th. It's a team that rated not nearly as highly across the board. A lot of people skeptical as to how good they would be on the international stage. And while this game has been very back and forth, all that matters is the win.
Wait, that's huge, actually. 10 seconds until Elder, and Breathe is going to be forced to go back to base. A single trade could be massive in the context of what's about to happen.
Can he cancel the recall one more time?
Xiaohu in a similar position where...
Keen now coming in, forcing the flash out from Crisp.
Now it's Gen G who have main control over this river.
They have no way to get in here. Weibo have to force, and again, whoever has to force, very likely to lose the fight. TP flank, they know that it's coming. Breathe on the way in. Rumble Equalizer not doing much, gets a bit of space for Chris. Pay's starting to step up. Ulti coming in from Chovy. Hostile takeover big. Light immediately going to cleanse, though doesn't want to give too much. Pay's trying to get into the back line, trying to make sure that Light doesn't have any room to work. And already the Elder is taken down, and instantly, in the blink of an eye, 44 minutes in, it's an ace for Gen G as they look to close it out here.
Mom and Dad just melt away Weibo as the Elder was enough to secure the fight. Once again, 5-0, and Gen G will assert themselves as the dominant force.
Incredible stuff, the confidence from Gen G, finding that window of opportunity. Keen, a quiet hero across the game, forcing Breathe back, giving them the ability to start that major objective. The first LPL-LCK matchup might have favored the LPL, but this one going in the favor of Gen G as they take down Weibo.
A close back and forth between Gen G and Weibo. But you know what? You've heard from us for 45 minutes. Let's quickly toss it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Betty. Of course, you need to keep your energy in check for this long day, but exactly, Gen G evened up the score again between the LCK and the LPL with their victory, and they did it by saying, we don't care about patch 14.18.
We can't read. No, we refuse to read.
Our entire top side will be, you know, the nerfed Rumble, the nerfed Maokai, the nerfed Smolder, but that doesn't always